This is the TID Joint Review Board agenda or board meeting. We're going to call the meeting to order and roll call, please.
Gallagher,
Here.
Ramirez,
Here.
Hayward,
Here.
Rossing,
Here.
and Mayor Kuhn is present. All members are present.
Thank you. Starting with the items, the number one, the TID Joint Review Board minutes of October 5th, 2023. Are there any changes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Going to number two, if you can help me with the agenda. Thanks so much. The annual report for TID number 3, and I'm handing it over to Bill.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Kuhn. And included in the packet are the state required reports. I'm going to share my screen and walk through our financial summary because it has some additional information and projections. If there are any questions about either the state forms or our projections, please let me know. I'll start with TIF District number 3. This financial model, which is similar to prior years for those of you that have been on the JRB, looks by year of the TID, sources of funds, uses, any debt service, and then fund balance. So looking at our TIF District number 3 for 2023, very strong revenue, about 12.2 million in revenue. Most of that, about 10 million, is in tax increment. I should note that in this table, the dotted line after 2025 represents that 2025 is the end of the expenditure period for TID 3. The required closure would be by 2030, but we are anticipating being able to take action to close that TID early. Moving over from revenues under the uses of funds, in 2023, we had 12.2 million in city project costs. The majority of that was for the reconstruction of Pleasant View Road on the west side of Middleton, which was a major project with state funding and done in conjunction with City of Madison. We had about 3.6 million in developer payments. Those are all developer finance TIF agreements, and we have approximately 15 active agreements that we're continuing to make payments on, scheduled for, in some cases, through the potential life of the district in 2030. So we are looking at options to prepay some of those obligations in order to be able to close the TID early. We have our cost recovery for administrative costs within the city's general fund for a total in 2023 of 16.4 million. And just while I'm on project costs, I'll highlight for 2025, what we're anticipating for major city project costs is the final closeout of Pleasant View Road. We have $1 million estimated for that. And then the final large project for the TID that we're hoping to complete in 2025 would be the reconstruction of Parmenter Street, which is a major artery in the city of Middleton. That would be for the portion from Century Avenue going north, making that an urban section and allowing for future development along that corridor. There is no outstanding external debt for TIF District number 3. That brings us to our fund balance. At the end of 2023, TID 3 had a healthy fund balance of $24 million. Of that, 5.1 million was advanced, a portion to the Pleasant View Golf Course, and the remainder to TIF District number 5. Those advances are being repaid. We anticipate that they will both be fully repaid by 2025 at the end of the expenditure period. And looking at the projection, we're anticipating an available fund balance at the end of 2025 of just under 29 million, and that would be sufficient to allow us to pay off the remaining obligations for the TID. We have had discussions with our city council about interest in closing the TID early, taking advantage of the 1-year extension for affordable housing, and then being able to completely terminate the TID and return excess payments to the other taxing jurisdictions. We'll be updating the projections of those amounts, but I would anticipate that we would be somewhere in that 20 to potentially as much as $30 million as a final residual balance for the TID. I'm going to move over. Oh, go ahead. Yes.
I just said very good. I like how you're sharing that 26 goal and that year of affordable housing opportunity. I know that is something the school district has been asking for So I know they get a portion, obviously our other partners that also get distribution, but that is a countywide initiative for that affordable housing. So I think it's a win-win.
Thank you. Move
And,
over to our,
thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Do you have an estimate of which year the TID 3 may close?
yeah, so we're anticipating that in 2026, the city may be able to take the action to do the 1-year extension through 2027, and then in 2027, take action to close the TID, which I believe would impact property taxes for the 2028 tax year. And we will refine those as we go forward. We are planning on working with a consultant to assist us with the TID closure process, but that's our estimate right now.
Oh, that's good to know, because I was wondering, I'm like, how do we figure that piece out? So good to hear on that. I think the only piece that I have, and this is for me because I do sometimes get these questions. It's a high level question, so if you don't know the answer, like not a worry. But when we close TID 3 in 26 or so, per Nick's request or question, that 12% that the next one that you're going to go over, TID 5, can we open a new TID within that year after affordable housing? Or is it more like we have to wait until TID 5 is moving and we have a good understanding? Is there a delay?
Yeah. Yeah, so Mayor Kuhn is referring to the 12% test, which is that you cannot have more than 12% of your equalized value in active TIDs and be able to create a new TID or expand a current TID. The city of Middleton is currently over that. I believe we're around 15 or 16%. We do anticipate that when TID 3 closes, that we will drop below that 12%, even with TID 5 remaining active. And my understanding is that as soon as you take action to terminate the TID finally, that then you could immediately act to create another TID. You don't have to wait until the following tax year.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So that might help us with our planning process.
Yeah. Are there any other questions on TID 3 before I move over to TID 5? Okay, I'll share my screen. TID 5 is Middleton's other active TIF district. This TID was created in 2009. It had a bit of a slower start due to the recession that immediately followed after the TID was created, but revenues have been increasing significantly over the past few years. And just looking at this only goes back 3 years, but you can see tax increment has increased, almost doubling from 2021 to 2023 with about 3 million in increment. And that's projected to continue going forward as additional development comes online. In total for 2023, revenues were about $3.4 million. Looking at project costs, we had 2.4 million roughly of city project costs. The largest portion of that was for the purchase of property along Parmenter Street, what we refer to as the former Latitude Graphics site. That is a future development site for some green space and to support a development that would be occurring along that area. There are active tenants there, so we are getting some revenue from that, but that is something the city purchased with the intent that that would be part of that future development area. We then have one city-financed upfront TIF agreement for some stormwater improvements, but most of the TIF agreements that we have are developer financed in this TIF as well. In total, there are about 1.2 million in developer incentives paid by the TID for a total expenditure of 3.6 million. We do have some outstanding debt service for TID 5, which is projected to run through 2035. And then looking at the fund balance for TID 5, TID 5 does have a deficit fund balance. As I mentioned, this TID got off to a slower start, and as typical with new TIDs, you have a lot of costs up front. It takes a while for the increment to come online. Those deficits have been covered by advances from TIF District number 3. At the end of 2023, there was about $4.3 million in money that had been advanced from TID 3 to TID 5. We're anticipating that a little over half of that would be repaid in 2024, with the final repayment in 2025, corresponding to the end of our expenditure period for TID 3 and allowing us to move forward with TID 3 closure. And then we are projecting a positive fund balance beginning in 2025 for TIF District number 5. Looking at some of our upcoming project costs for this TIF district, We don't have any large projects in 2024. A couple of items that have been submitted for our budget process for 2025 are Century Avenue Bridge improvements. That's both street improvements as well as pedestrian access improvements in that area. There would be some land acquisition and planning in 2025 with construction in 2027 in conjunction with Dane County. And then doing some streetscaping along Lisa Lane, which is a street off of Parmenter, to bring that to more of a pedestrian-friendly urban feel for that development area. And then looking ahead, some underground and utility work and improvements to the Pheasant Branch Creek trailhead to make that a more desirable area within the community. We are projecting that this TID is more likely to run close to its full life through 2036. It's too early at this point to indicate if there may be a potential for closing early as we get more towards the end of the TIF district, but we do have existing obligations and debt service that is planned to run for additional years. And with that, I would be happy to answer questions on either TIF district.
Any questions? No, just excited that it's moving forward, and I like that you showed how it's starting to double in the TIF money coming in over the last 3 years. It's really a healthy move forward, and it is a lot of the things that we're seeing on at least for the corridor that I used to represent. There's a lot of healthy growth. Some of those luxury apartments have been coming through, and it really is revitalizing the neighborhood, and we're getting more walkers, more bikers, and more foot traffic into those local businesses. So it's not just that TIF money in, but it's doing the things you envision a TIF district to do. So much appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions for Bill, I was just going to go over some updates on current and future TID projects. This is the last item that we have on the agenda today. So TIF District 3, this is the district Bill mentioned that we're considering closing early. It's the district that covers the land that is west of the Beltline in the Airport Road Business Park area, as well as our Middleton Municipal Airport, the Greenway Center and Greenway Station area, and then also some parts of the Parmenter corridor and downtown Middleton. We don't have a lot of new private development happening within this TIF district that is being incentivized, and that's just due to how soon we expect to close the district. But we do have one project that is currently under construction, and that's the Greenway mixed use development. This is a redevelopment of 2 vacant office buildings that are at the corner of John Q. Hammons Parkway and Greenway Boulevard, right across the street from the Greenway Station Shopping Center. And they have a footings and foundations permit right now, so there is work happening on the site. They haven't started doing actual construction of the building yet, but this project will include 243 units of market rate housing and 6,000 square feet of commercial space. And the TIF incentive for this project is primarily for underground parking. The city has a TIF policy that does not allow the use of developer finance TIF for the first level of underground parking in multifamily buildings, because that's really become standard in the market. But in this case, it's a mixed use redevelopment project, and also they have 2 stories of underground parking, so it does meet the but-for test. This is a city-initiated project. This is the Cayuga Connector. It's a multi-use path that connects downtown Middleton to the primary connection in our trail system, which is the Pheasant Branch Creek Corridor Trail. And this project was designed this year. It will be constructed in 2025, prior to the end of the expenditure period. And then Bill also mentioned the Parmenter Street reconstruction project. This has also been designed. We had to delay this project by a year because of consideration with trying to get right-of-way position from all of the property owners that were needed. We had to do some minimal redesign work to the cross-section for this project, and we expect that this will be constructed in 2025. And then Bill also mentioned Pleasant View Road. This is one of the largest capital projects the city has ever undertaken. This project was in conjunction with the state as well as the city of Madison, and it is mostly completed. If you go near the Pleasant View Golf Course, you can see the new PED bridge that connects the primary hub of our trail system west to a new bike pump track that was installed at our Erdman Park CXC facility. And then in TIF District 5, this district covers a lot of land that is between the Beltline and Parmenter Street. It travels along the Pheasant Branch Conservancy Creek corridor to pick up kind of the commercial area in the northeast part of the city near Allen Boulevard and Century Avenue. And then we amended the district a couple of years ago to follow along south on Allen Boulevard, cut west through Lakeview Park in order to pick up a small portion of University Avenue. Some of the city's future plans are looking at, possibly trying to create a TIF district that would cover the remainder of University Avenue. We still are seeing a lot of commercial vacancies along that stretch, but we have had some recent redevelopment projects happening on that corridor as well. This is a new workforce housing development that was recently completed on North Parmenter Street in the Tribeca neighborhood. It's called Autumn Ridge Apartments. The developer is JT Klein, and the city provided a developer finance TIF assistance for workforce housing and soil remediation. This project also received competitive tax credits through WIDA's LIHTC program. So the city's incentive is really making up the gap that helped get that project to the finish line. The city is very excited to see construction activity happening at the Bell Farm neighborhood, one of two subdivisions on the north side of the city and within our limited growth area that is now underway. This development covers 44 acres of land. It's mixed use. The developer is Kathleen Slattery Moshkow. And in total, with all 5 phases, they expect that there will be about 880 units of housing, 730 of which are multifamily, and the remainder are single family. The multifamily you can see is kind of just east of the Parmenter Street corridor, and the TIF incentive that the city provided is strictly related to the commercial buildings and not to the single family housing that's planned within the development. This project will also include about 75,000 square feet of retail, restaurant, office, and hotel space. And the TIF incentive was related to public infrastructure. So that's the Bellefontaine Boulevard road connection, as well as some new path systems that will be installed, and also related to sustainable features within the project. This is probably one of the highest standards of environmental sustainability for any subdivision that's been built in Dane County. It has a lot of solar, geothermal, there are green roofs incorporated, and it's a no gas development. So it's all electric. And then the city is continuing to work with the Bruce Company and their developer T-Wall Enterprises on a redevelopment of the Bruce Company's office and retail operations, moving them into a new retail building with office above. And also, as they move their commercial landscaping, staging operations out of the city of Middleton, it's freeing up a lot of land, about 14 acres in total, that can be redeveloped for housing, and it's mostly market rate multifamily housing, and it would include about 800 units. There are other commercial uses that are planned along the Parmenter corridor. There's a mixed use building, and then Bill also mentioned the property that the city acquired, which is this site. We call it the Latitude Graphics site. It has some commercial tenants still in the building, but once they vacate, which is likely to happen around 2028, the city would tear the building down and we would restore the land to parkland. It's actually about half of the building is in the environmental corridor currently. And so we would restore that area and we would develop this as a new public park that would serve the development. And then Bill also mentioned that we're doing some work with Dane County on the Century Avenue Bridge replacement project. The design is underway currently. We don't expect construction to happen until 2027. And that is because Dane County is going to be applying for federal funding for the bridge. And so that takes some additional time to make sure that you're meeting the federal design standards and working through that process. But this bridge is one of the top 10 worst bridges in the state as far as the condition of the bridge and the amount of traffic that it carries. So it's a very high priority project for Dane County and for the city. And it provides us a once in 50-year opportunity to underground our Pheasant Branch Conservancy Trail crossing here, which is the primary busy street that is crossed now through our trail network that extends from the southwest side of the city at the Pleasant View Golf Course all the way to the northeast side of the city in Orchid Heights Park. So this is really the primary crossing, and on any given nice sunny day, you will see hundreds and hundreds of people that are coming up from the trail system, going across this very narrow sidewalk here, and then crossing on foot at Century and Branch. So we're hoping that this will really provide a necessary safety improvement, and it will also provide a really good connection to some land that the city acquired from Stagecoach Trail apartments developer JT Klein several years ago using a Knowles Nelson land acquisition grant that we got from the DNR, because we would also like to create a trailhead here that provides some minimal parking for the Conservancy, but also has a picnic area and restrooms, and then a head bridge crossing to get into the main 3-mile loop of the Conservancy system.
When would that be built?
This would get built in 2027. We think at this point in time, with the design work that we've done so far for the bridge and the trail, as well as the trailhead, we think that it makes sense to coordinate those all in the same year.
Makes sense.
That could change as we get further with the trailhead. It's possible that the trailhead portion might get pushed back a year. But at this point in time, we expect that we're doing those all in the same year. We have everything torn up at the same time, and then it's put back together in the same construction season.
Thank you.
Yep. And then Bill mentioned the Lisa Lane streetscaping project. This is an old photograph now, but this is the Middleton Market Development Project that also includes the aviary apartments. And this project is complete, and we had just had an opening for the first commercial tenant within the market space a couple weeks ago. So there's a new barcade facility that went in here, and then they're hoping that pretty soon they'll be able to be doing the build out for the food market vendors within this space. And so as more redevelopment happens in this area, we want to improve streetscaping and pedestrian connections, as well as street lighting, and then adding some street trees, because this area still does feel very much disconnected. Even though we've had some other apartment buildings going up in this area, it still doesn't really feel like a mixed use neighborhood. And so we're trying to encourage more redevelopment in that area by improving streetscaping amenities. Then the last thing I was just going to mention is if you ever have any questions about any projects that are going on in the city of Middleton, you can go to this website. It's linked off the Chamber of Commerce page as well as the city's website, and it's an interactive map where you can click on these different pinpoint locations, and it will pull up information about any development projects that are happening, who the developer is. I can't scroll on this, but it includes information about the status of the project, whether it's fully approved, if it's under construction, or if it's recently completed. And then it also includes a rendering if we have one. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has about the projects that are going on.
Awesome.
Yeah, there are a lot of exciting projects on this list. So thank you for the overview.
Anything else?
I second what Nick said. It's very exciting. I think, can we bring the agenda back up
Yes.
when we have a chance? And that was number 4. All right, with that, is there any final comments? If not, it was great to see everyone, and thank you for a very succinct meeting. I appreciate that from staff. This meeting is adjourned. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I heard you're going
Thanks.
to a conference.
It's a board meeting at CivMIC today. So I'm on the board for CivMIC, and today they're doing their big budget meeting. So
Oh, you're definitely
I can move from our budget to a different budget.
right? I mean,
Yeah, and
You
get to
know,
sit on the
it's-
other side.
right? I was gonna say, it's end of fiscal year right now, so it's like, what day is it? Like, we have to spend down everything in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
Mhm.
just kind of throw in a few, just keep going. Real quick, Bill, I saw the meeting on Bishop's Bay, MDP and financing. And since I have Brian in the room, is that just one of those overview meetings, or is this something specifically different? Like, is this is this a T-wall request? Or is
Yes.
this us?
It's
Is he just going to talk to us about all the things, or is this a very specific?
They requested the meeting to talk about financing options for Bishop's Bay. We don't know more detail than that. Abby and I had met with Terrence and a couple others on his team back in beginning of summer, I think May perhaps.
Okay.
And then I think this is the follow-up to that. I did hear from Jake Buns that he asked that you be invited to that. But I think that's the purpose of the meeting, for them to lay out their financing request.
Duly noted.
To answer your question, I'd say use it as both meetings. Done.
That's a great idea. Great, sounds great. Thank you. Have
Yeah.
a good day.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Okay, yeah, I